Hello, my name is Brittany Powers, and this is my Module 1 assignment for EDL 854 Building Finance. So this first module is focused upon communicating who we are. So here is a little about me. So first, I identified some things that I really enjoy. I put this photo of a piano because I love music. I started playing piano when I was very young, was always singing from a young age, so I just really love music. It's an important part of my life. I put this house clip art because I just bought my first home several months ago and I'm working on renovating it right now. And I love to decorate. I added this clip art of a person stretching because I love being active and value exercise and fitness. And most recently, I've been doing something called bar exercises, which are based in ballet. And I'm not a good dancer, but it's really challenging and fun. This is a picture of my family. So it's myself with my husband Bob and our dog Archie. And then here's another photo of myself and Bob traveling, which is one of our favorite things to do together. Next, a little bit about my professional life. So I'm a first grade teacher. I'm going into my second grade teaching, or my second year teaching first grade. I teach in the Blue Valley School District at Wolf Springs Elementary School, which is in South Overland Park actually, it's on the county line of a city called Stillwell, Kansas, which is a rural community just south of Overland Park. This is a picture of a student from my class last year and myself. Okay, so reading over the content for Module 1, here are my 10 takeaways. First, the thing that stood out to me in the beginning is that approximately 48% of a school's budget comes from the state resources, including income taxes, sales tax, and fees. I didn't know that a lot of our money that we have to work with in education comes from taxpayers and tax money that comes in. I didn't know that such a large amount did come from the state level though, and that we were also able to limit what we received from the federal level. Next, I said 1/3 of American students are negatively affected by ADA policies. So I did watch the TED Talk that was tagged in the first article where the speaker discussed how many schools receive funding based on their attendance, their daily attendance, and in high-need schools where families face challenges of transportation and maybe students are more often raised by a single parent in the home. If schools are receiving funding based on attendance rates, it's doing the opposite of offering an equitable situation for that school. So that one definitely stood out to me. Moving on, schools have the option to refuse federal funding. So I mentioned that a little bit earlier. I didn't know that we had that option. I just kind of assumed if you receive a grant or some money from the government that you are obligated to use it, and I just kind of assumed that people would be happy to use it, but I didn't consider the fact that schools would want to keep more control at the state level and not be so controlled by the national government. So in that situation, with that in mind, it does make sense that in certain scenarios, a school would want to refuse funding from the federal government. Next, something that stood out to me is that a large portion of school funding comes from local property tax. I have always heard of that, and I had never really researched it on my own, but it was good to have that information confirmed, because it does show another situation that really is a barrier to equitable education and equitable opportunities. If areas with families who on average have higher income are paying more property tax, those schools that probably don't have as much need are getting more money per student, and then those other schools that have higher need are getting less money per student, and it's just unfair, and it continues the gap in our country. Some more takeaways that I have. So next, I really want to focus on the responsibilities that a building leader has. And the first one that stood out to me was that a principal is responsible for leading reforms, defining school goals, developing budgets, fundraising, keeping up with financial accounts, and teacher salaries. So all of those are on the shoulders of a principal, and while they are responsible for the financial side, they're also responsible for a school vision and establishing a school-wide set of goals and making sure that people are aligning with those goals, but also that the finances are reflecting those goals as well and staying aligned to those goals as well. Also, a principal must meet the guidelines of the Department of Education. This one stood out to me just because of the level of seriousness for that responsibility. I read that if a principal doesn't follow Department of Education guidelines, that a school could even be closed. That's how serious it is and important that a principal follows those guidelines. So that one definitely was a major takeaway. It got my attention. Next, a principal is responsible for hiring an accountant and reporting expenditures. So that one stood out to me just because of the level of communicating that a principal has to do. They have to communicate with a different branch outside of education and be involved more with people who are working with finances and bring in their own accountant. This is helpful for transparency, but also just having another professional in the building to help make sure that that area of the school is taken care of efficiently. And then reporting expenditures. So the principal is working with people on this side for accounting, and then they're also reporting all finances to anyone else who needs to be involved and appraised of the situation. Balance sheets, income statements, and statements of cash flow are all documents that a principal must use and understand well. This is something that in education courses you don't hear a lot of mention about, but these are extremely important. I think in the beginning of, I don't want to mispronounce this name, but Shkurina's article, she mentioned a school that was very efficient in every area in Illinois, but there was a seemingly small mistake in the finances, and it ended up costing the school hundreds of thousands in debt for the following years. Next, principals may be responsible for choosing accounting software, using it, and train others to use it. So again, not only is a principal responsible for being well learned in education, curriculum, finances, but also technology. Kind of leads into my last takeaway, which is that principals have to be extremely well learned and committed to constantly learning in their profession. It's a huge job, a huge responsibility, and as I'm taking this course, it helps me to understand just the level of difficulty and accountability that principals have to the community, to teachers, and to so many people. Here are my references. Thanks for watching, and I'm excited to learn more in this course.